It is good to see all of you this morning, and welcome to those who are joining us online. It is my privilege and honor to speak to you this morning about the great topic of discipleship. The title of my sermon from Luke chapter 14, verses 25 through 32 is The Conundrum of Discipleship. Discipleship need not be puzzling. Conundrum means to be puzzling, difficult to understand. But discipleship need not be a puzzle. I can describe it in 11 words. Discipleship is learned behavior. You need not be a scholar. I will go through this passage in Luke chapter 14, one verse at a time. I hope you better understand it when I'm finished. Again, you don't have to be a Bible scholar. You only have to have love in your heart. You can understand the conundrum, the puzzle of discipleship. But I will illustrate why discipleship can be hard to be understood. Jesus says in this passage in Luke, a disciple is someone who can finish a project, someone who can overcome the odds, and someone who is like tasty salt. Apologies to any who have had to remove salt from their diets, but you know salt is tasty. I will show you how being a disciple makes you like tasty salt at the end of this sermon. One more definition of discipleship. Discipleship is a choice based on a changed heart. I am going to try to persuade you to be a disciple of Jesus if you haven't already. Discipleship is a conundrum, difficult to understand, because it can be easy to believe that a disciple is only a learner. I graduated with a 4-year degree from Ozark Bible College. Head knowledge alone did not make me a disciple of Jesus. I fell into a trap that has buried and entombed many scholars. Some believe they are a disciple only because of head knowledge. Some believe they are disciples of Jesus because they go to church every Sunday. I hope to help you understand that a disciple of Jesus is more than a warm body in a pew or a Bible college degree. Simply, a disciple is someone who can finish a project. Jesus is talking about the project of discipleship. I will illustrate this 2 ways. First, there are men who spend their time and energy picking up women. Someone wrote a book called Games People Play. Another book was written called Out of the Shadows that details the thinking and behaviors of these people. On the other hand, some people spend their time and energy investing in a faithful and monogamous relationship, like dating and marriage. Morality and immorality are two sides of the same coin of discipleship. Of these two contrasting ways of life, Do you understand why and how they can both resemble discipleship? I believe I am qualified to talk about this because I have lived both lifestyles. Sex addicts and faithful Christians are both disciples in their own way. Jesus addresses this conundrum so that I might apply it to my life. He says, a disciple will not build a house without first calculating the cost. Good moral choices are like house payments. Immoral choices are like bankruptcy. Do you live in a mansion or a shack? Many immoral people are homeless. Do you understand? Speaking of immorality, I used to like women, and it wasn't because of their minds. My mind was in the gutter. My obsession, as Jerry Seinfeld told George Costanza, was like the scrap of a leaf of lettuce, where only a small scrap of the leaf of lettuce could think about things other than immorality, other than women. That would be funny if that hadn't been true of me. I was a disciple of Satan. I was like the king in verse 31 who requested terms of peace. Requesting terms of peace is compromise. It's surrender. Satan wins, I lose. But Jesus' disciple does not compromise his or her values. For example, I knew a Christian who tore up a Playmate foldout that someone had posted above his workstation, rather than compromise and just laugh. Discipleship goes where the mind goes. I had a girlfriend in the small town where I grew up. But out of high school, I moved 200 miles away to go to trade school. She was still in high school. We continued to write letters to each other. I would call her once in a while. I would drive 200 miles to see her some weekends. I was investing in a relationship the way a disciple of Jesus invests. But at the same time, I was carrying on in Wichita, 200 miles away. I was drinking and smoking and had a second girlfriend. So how is that like discipleship? Wasn't that compromise? I was pursuing my obsession with those who were attractive and desirable and cheating on my girlfriend. I could not maintain both relationships or projects forever. I was not like a disciple of Jesus, so it was surrender. I was a disciple of Satan. Those are the two opposing lifestyles I'm talking about. I had two contradictory projects going on at the same time. This was not going to end well. But a disciple of Jesus is able to finish the project of discipleship. A disciple of Jesus can also overcome the odds against discipleship. In verses 31 and 32, Jesus poses the conundrum of a king trying to decide if he can defeat another king who has twice as many soldiers. Jesus compares this to me pursuing the affair in Wichita and the affair I had the relationship I had with my girlfriend in Nortonville. What I did not understand was that the obsession and addiction greatly stacked the odds against me ever having a healthy relationship with a woman, let alone practice discipleship. My affections were divided. Meanwhile, back in the small town where my girlfriend lived, she was seeing another guy. Do you understand? We were boyfriend and girlfriend, seeing other people on the side. In December of 1972, I went to Wichita's largest mall and bought her a ring. I gave it to her at Christmas time, and we were going steady. I did not know about the other guy, but she broke it off with him. Can you believe he had the audacity to ask me at a Christmas party if he could date my girlfriend when he was already dating her? It took me a couple of months, but I also broke up with my girlfriend in Wichita and moved back to Nortonville, although part of me had wanted to stay in Wichita. That is like a Christian trying to salvage his relationship with Jesus, even though his obsessions, his sinful obsessions, are worldly. I was trying. Discipleship is learned behavior. But I don't have to be a scholar to understand that, and you don't either. Only a disciple can finish the project of discipleship. And only a disciple of Jesus can overcome the odds that are stacked against him or her. Jesus draws a line in the sand. Do you know where the line is? Do you know what the line separates? Do you understand what the project is? Or what the odds are? Or why you don't have to be a scholar? Jesus said, "None of you can be my disciple unless he or she gives up all their possessions." Let's understand this verse in its context. What does giving up all my possessions mean here? Does it mean giving everything to charity and entering a nunnery or monastery? Does it mean treat all my possessions as Christ's possessions? Not in this passage. I think Jesus is talking about the Christian who is obsessed, who struggles with at least one sin. My girlfriend and I were cheating on each other. That's one thing. We were not like disciples of Jesus until we made the life-changing decision to focus on each other. Today, the girlfriend I had over 50 years ago is my beautiful and faithful wife. We did it. What would I have to show for my life if I had chosen the path of sexual conquest? If I had continued abusing nicotine and alcohol? I want you to understand, that would have been failing to finish the project of discipleship and failing to overcome the odds of obsession. I would be like Jeffrey Epstein, whose sinful obsessions perished when he died. Or like Hugh Hefner, if some of you remember him. The conundrum of discipleship is important to understand because Jesus does not want me to waste my life. I very nearly did anyway. I might have if I had not learned that discipleship was learned by doing. I didn't learn that in the book. Disciple means learner, but discipleship is learned behavior. A disciple of Jesus is able to finish the project, able to overcome the odds, and is like tasty salt. In verses 34 and 35, a salty snack leaves a good taste in my mouth. A person who finishes the project and overcomes the odds has a good feeling in his or her heart and is satisfied and happy. The alternative is to fail to be a disciple of Jesus and leave a bad taste in his mouth. Let me illustrate. I worked with a guy who was a braggart. Nobody liked him. The plant closed down, but the laundry stayed open for 2 weeks. I told the guy I was going to be his supervisor for those 2 weeks. He scowled, but said nothing. When the 2 weeks were over, I told him I had lied. And all he could say was, I knew you were lying. I know that's hard to follow, but he is an example of what it will be like for those who rejected discipleship, but were arrogant and bragged about their sinful lives. He is like someone who will get their comeuppance on Judgment Day. Simply, the braggart got his comeuppance, and unbelievers will get their comeuppance on Judgment Day, even though they think the Bible lies when they say they will be judged. Who knows why this guy was so full of pride? But he is like someone who can't or won't be a disciple. He may have had a chemical or emotional addiction. In the same way, he is like a Christian who has a chemical or emotional addiction. Are any of you struggling with chemical or emotional addictions? Nothing to laugh at. Obsessed with a sin? Been there, done that. I got help for my obsessions and alcoholism, emotional and chemical addictions. I urge addicts to seek help. The Lord helped me. I asked over and over. Jesus led me to the right people and the right people to me. Addicts need help before they can become disciples of Jesus. Discipleship calls for me to make a decision about how I balance the pressing matters of this life with pressing on to maturity. I needed help even making that decision. Christ help me. Discipleship need not be a conundrum, not easy to understand. You do not have to be a scholar. You only need the love of Jesus in your heart. That's the beauty of discipleship. I have described a number of behaviors of discipleship, good and bad. The question is, does Jesus have dibs on your behavior? In short, discipleship is behavior. Practicing love is discipleship. We will sing a verse of a song while you consider what I have said this morning and what you want to do about it. Let me go ahead and say this, Byron. We don't need to pause between the verses. Being a disciple of Jesus is like learning how to build a house and building it. Like learning how to drive a car and going on a cruise. Learning how to use a computer and becoming a nerd. We will sing this verse as you consider the conundrum, the puzzle of discipleship, and whether or not it's for you.